Yes, listening to this last recording above, I got about 7 minutes through, I think it is, and it occurs to me, yes, but you've got a daughter, Marshall. Yes, and daughter needs a dad, and given the way Mum's going, she's not going to get any new dad. Mum doesn't seem to be effectively in the field of seeking a husband or partner to replace the one she got rid of, which was Marshall, of course, me. But my daughter, I understand it in the childhood phase that we've been through ourselves, does need a dad. Her mum is very good in that is loving and will, like my mum, would do much to redress any lack. But I'm not wanting to give my daughter any more handicap here in this classroom, in this life that she has. Than is right. I feel her situation is right with God, of course, because I'm trusting God. But part of that situation is me, and as I am, as her dad. And I do what I can to stay in her life, despite Mum's inclination as it presents strongly to me. To be there for her. And I trust to God that I can make that compatible with, nonetheless, God being first in my life. In fact, I trust rather more than that it's the only way it can be truly achieved, is through God being first in my life. For we are not as we should be to one another when we do not have this relationship with God. We are doing our best, but with nearly both our hands tied behind our back. And the result is much havoc that we see in marriage. Not for lack of good intention somehow, but for lack of good relationship with God as Dad. And the inference that such makes in our lives and being and progress. And ability to do what is right. You know, it's not that some children are more wonderful than others. It's that some children have a better reality with God as Dad, and therefore are enabled to handle things better. Of course, you may take issue with whether they do handle things better. And that will depend upon your view of God and your degree of devotion accordingly as well, of course. So, yes, I do give much priority to my daughter with regard to how I care for other people. But I still keep it in relationship to simply putting God first. So I do purpose to love God, your heart, soul, mind and strength. And others as myself. Of course, Jesus in the story is talking to people in this world, children. And so he singles out other people from the point of view of being neighbours. Who are neighbours in the story? Well, the Good Samaritan story says that a neighbour is one who rescues you from dire distress, left abandoned on the roadside. And that is the one, that neighbour is the one that you're to love as yourself. Not with all your heart, soul, mind and strength. That's God. But as yourself. Well, how do you love yourself? Well, you want yourself to love God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength. To be right with God, your God. And so we find that we're sent to do that. To help others be in similar purpose, love, devotion to God, that they might achieve the fullness of life, which is their true benefit and blessing. Not some priority of relationship with me, with you, but of course with God, as we would have ourselves. So we find the Jesus story and is a great help to guidance through this tangle of understanding what relationships ideally can be. Isn't that amazing? It's an astonishing story. It's a shame that Christian religion doesn't follow it, and of course, well, doesn't understand it accordingly. And you could say, but your interpretation is very peculiar, Marshall. What makes you think you're right? Well, in large measure, because I think the church has followed not the Jesus story, but the Pauline presentation of what spirituality and conversion is supposed to be about. And I think you'll agree it doesn't measure up to the Jesus story when you look at the Jesus story. Don't want to worship it. I suppose I do want to put it on a pedestal in a way as a correction to going the wrong way that Christianity has gone, but not to be worshipped. We don't worship a story. It's just helpful in pointing us to God, that we may worship and love him and be devoted to him and become a wonderful person accordingly. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Well, I'm adding this note. It's now, I don't know, is it the 15th of March, something like that, Saturday anyway. And if I were to be presented in the astral world with, oh, you need to return for your daughter's sake. I'd say, no, of course not. If that is the case, God will return me. But it is not the case. For God can do all things in at least an incredible number of ways, if not an infinite number of ways. And I think potentially it is, because God is infinite. I'm not needed. I'm following that inclination whilst I have choice here in the material, but only in as far as God gives opportunity for me to do so. And I can see even in the material that very much of the time he doesn't. I have very minimal time with my daughter Aria. But such time as I have opportunity for, I take. But am I to make a decision to have more or less time? Not quite sure how to answer that in a way that you'll understand is valid. But I trust God for it. For the fact that I have rather less than I would expect to have as a dad in a good relationship. It's not a good relationship, and that's because God has that for a blessing. And I am blessed by it too. And I assume and trust that my daughter is blessed by it, and my ex-wife. That she is blessed by this role that she finds she is in. We're all three of us still in this world, and probably therefore have much or something at least to learn by playing the roles we play. But we don't play them in desperation of, can I make the right decision or not? I know in my heart the decision is with God, not with me. Thank goodness. His goodness. Love you, Dad. Love you, Dad. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. So you see, it's like the prayer, I'm sent. Sent to do what? Tell people, that those that appears to hear anyway, and don't think my daughter has at the minute, that God is her Heavenly Dad. That's the actual reason I'm staying in her life. All other purpose has been taken, you see. I mean, I'm sent back. I'm already, if you like, with Jesus where he is. But we are sent. And it's a very, if you like, narrow and specific sending. As I see it, which is to tell people that God is lovely God, not the God that they may have shied away from quite reasonably. You know, God is, well, probably all-powerful and all-loving. In particular, loves them as a perfect dad would. And your idea of a perfect dad, it depends on what your values are at the minute. Okay, well, that's your God, and loving him with heart, soul, mind and strength, we trust will bring you through to adulthood. You'll graduate extremely quickly and miraculously. And you don't have to take anyone's word for it. Taste and see. You lose nothing and gain potentially eternity. eternal life. So it's worth spending your time here checking it out. Try loving God with all your heart. No, simply try being thankful for everything around you and see the incredible change it has on you. You'll know the way to go. So, in passing then, we are proof against an astral inquisition by some spirit that may or may not be God Almighty. We leave it to our Heavenly Dad. We make no decision at all. We are in His arms, in His embrace. I think this is your proof of against reincarnation again, if you have indeed been reincarnated in the past, many times perhaps, don't know. Your proof against being trapped in this cycle is your trust in God being your Heavenly Dad. Hence again you see the primacy of what we are sent to do, which is to tell people that God is their Heavenly Dad. It's not my primacy to be Aria's dad or Christine's husband. Well, I mean, she divorced me anyway, but you know what I mean. These things are incidental in being here. The context in which we are sent. We are, ideally, as one who loves God with all heart, soul, mind and strength, and others as ourselves, wanting them, therefore, including, in my case, Aria and Christine, wanting them both to come to see God as their Heavenly Dad, their God as their Heavenly Dad. That's the all of the matter. Thank goodness. Thank God. A Heavenly Dad. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Simplistically, then, I don't seek my own will. Seek God's will, in the context of understanding Him to be a loving Heavenly Dad. Perfect. And true and perfect in the sense of the values that I have, which I trust He can modify and does accordingly. And that's the reason I've been sent, really. He didn't need me to tell them that He is their Heavenly Dad. He could have done that 1,000 million different ways. Trillion. He wanted to bless me, so He sent me here. And you. Isn't that lovely? Thank you, Heaven.